question here is how to deal with, how do we work with some objects, how do we deal with objects, arrays, collections and all. That means we need to understand presentation, how we can present the contents, how we can present the content. So how to handle conditions and iterations, how to handle conditions and iterations in Angular. These are very much required for presentation. So how we can manage them. Let's see one simple example. So let's go to the project. In the project, first step, so we need to present some content. So let's take an example of our Angular. Right. In the last session, we designed this one. That means through MVC and MVVM, one small example we created. Now we will see how to handle the event and property binding techniques. One simple option I will show you. Conditions and iterations in Angular. How we can manage the conditions and iterations in Angular. Okay. So generally, people call these as a separate topic. Means generally, we also call these in Angular, officially people call them as directives. Officially people call them as directives. So we need to understand how to use the directives for conditions and iterations. How do we manage the directives? Because if we know this, then we can make the presentation correctly. We have two important directives. One is ng-if is a directive, and we have ng-switch as a directive. We have like ng-for as a directive. ng-if, ng-switch, ng-for. These are used for handling conditions and iterations in Angular. They are used for handling conditions and iterations in Angular. How they will make the presentation easy, how they can make the presentation simple. Let's see one small example, how to handle them in a simple way. So usually, let's see how do we work with ng-for. One by one we will see all of them. ng-for, actually, ng-for is an iterator. So it is an iterator used to repeat any HTML element dynamically based on collection. It is an iterator used to repeat any HTML element dynamically based on collection. Actually, we use ng-for syntactically like this. We have a list item. We want this list item to repeat. We have to add the directive. So these directives, structural directives. So these are called structural directives. We call them as structural directives. These structural directives are used to control the structure of a structure of DOM. They are used to control the structure of DOM. And they are defined by using asterisk. They are defined by using asterisk. That means syntactically we have to write like this: ng for let item of collection. So we have to write the logic like this. That means it will repeat this. It will repeat this for every item inside the collection. It will repeat the list item for every item inside the collection. So it is generally called as repeater. It repeats. If you remembered, when we learned JavaScript and jQuery, to repeat a list item and generate a list for list item, so much logic we have to write. It's very much complicated, lot of things we need to write. We need to configure a lot of things. So generally, so much work we have to do in order to perform iteration. You already learned JavaScript and jQuery, and you learned how to dynamically add the items, and you saw the problem. Now let's see how this can be simply handled in our application. Let's see. So what we are doing is, in the project, I will add a component. How to add component we already learned. I will right click, open in integrated terminal, components location, ng generate component, and the component name I given as iterations. Iterations is the component. Okay, skip this. I am adding a component called iterations. So this component is ready. And let's keep that iterations component in the startup. We will run the project. So from this location, we will run the project. Right. So we will say ng server. Okay. Let's go to the startup and keep this as startup. How to keep in startup already we learned. Go to app module.ts. In that, keep that iterations in the startup. Iterations in the startup. Okay. And go to index.html. In index.html, we need to keep app iterations. App iterations. We need to define app iterations. That's done. Now let's run this and see. Once the application is started, first we will check whether app iterations is working or not. Iterations is working or not. So it is compiling and execute. So once it is started, okay. Now it will launch this on the browser, and in that iteration is working fine. Let's go to the iterations. Here I will simply go to the iterations component TS file. This is the logic. In this logic, this is the class. Here I will create a collection called categories. Categories is an array. In that array, we are defining some electronics, so some footwear, some fashion. Now I need to generate this. I need to generate this as a list item and display in the UI in an ordered list. And in the HTML, go to iterations HTML. Here I want to present. If you remembered the JavaScript and jQuery we learned, generally in JavaScript, how to do, we have to create. So we have to create a for loop where item of collection is categories, and we need to create a list item. So where li is equal to new document dot create element li, and li dot inner html is equal to item, and ordered list dot append child that list item. You know this logic, we have to write this lengthy logic. In jQuery also same. In jQuery also we have to write in this way. We have to write each. So each, the data is categories, and we need a callback function. This callback function, so we'll use key and value. It will use key and value. So, and what we need to do is we need to access the values and print them. That means again we need to create a list item, and the list item will use that value. So, and it should append this. It should append this. It should append this dot append to order list. This is the approach we do in jQuery. If you remember JavaScript and jQuery, this is the lengthy logic we need to write actually. Now observe carefully. So in the UI here, I will just put as categories, create an ordered list. Here list item should repeat. If list item have to repeat, currently only one list item is there. That list item should repeat. Then you have to simply add ng for. We have to add ng for. And the query, let item of collection categories, and print that item as a list item text. Just we have to use binding expression, and we need to write item. We need to configure the item, and you can see that it will generate that list here and it will display. But here it is still, the point here is the item have categories. So this is categories array. So that is a lowercase. Let's use the lowercase. You need to follow that. And you can see that. You can see. So it is getting the list and displaying. It is working fine. So when you are accessing and configuring, this makes very simple. When you compare this with your JavaScript and jQuery, so with your JavaScript and jQuery, you don't need to write much logic. Everything is done in the presentation. So you have seen that if we have to create, the logic, so then lot of lines we have to write, create the elements, add the elements dynamically. But all this is now simplified in our Angular. In Angular, we have to just create a list item, and we have to use ng for, and let item of categories. That's it. And we need to print that item. This is in one line we done it. This makes querying and presentation more easy. Not only list item. For example, you see, suppose Now I will give here in the UI, I give here another heading, categories. And here I will create a select. I need to create an option for every item. And you remembered, if we have to create options dynamically, so much logic we have to write in JavaScript and jQuery. But now simply you have to make this option ng for and let item of collection categories. And we have to print that item. That's it. And you can see that a drop down is generated for that with those items. It is easy to manage options. That means you can simply perform an iteration. Remember, iterations can be nested also. Iterations can be nested. For nested iterations in JavaScript, jQuery, lot of nested looping we have to write. But see how it can be done here. I will copy this first. An example I will give here. So let's take an example for this. So we have component. So I added some iteration.component.ts. In iteration component.ts, this is a simple iteration. In iteration component.ts, you don't need to do much. You have to write this. Only that class I will give here. You need to add this logic. That is the logic. And iteration.component.html. In iteration component HTML. So here we need to add this logic. So that is the logic for HTML. How we present. We will see nested iterations. We will see how we can handle nested iterations. Nested iterations also very simple here. Let's see. We will create a collection here. The collection is, so I will just create a collection and we will present that. Okay. Let's create the collection here. The collection is, so we have some shopping menu. Okay, that is a collection. It's an array. That array contains an object. That object have category electronics. This we already done in JavaScript and jQuery. So we have products. Products is again array. We have like mobile. So we have like speaker. This is defined in this way. Another category. So footwear and products in that footwear. So some Nike casuals and some Lee boots. Okay, this is a collection. Now I need to generate this in the UI. Earlier, you know that you already practiced that in JavaScript and jQuery. Lot of nested conditions we have to write. So now you can see here simply I am creating a div and I just created here a now bar and here unordered list item. So first we will create an ordered list. So list item. And this list item should repeat for every category. Then here we are writing. So here we are writing ng for let item of collection. Collection is shopping menu. So we have shopping menu. Okay. Here in the shopping menu, so here we need to define, so item dot category, it is going to print the category because this item is an object now. That object have a property called category and it is going to print it, and you can see it is printing that electronics and footwear. Now inside this I need to generate an unordered list. It contains a list item. Then we use ng for let. This is like product of, we cannot use the same word item again, right? Product of item dot products and that product must be printed here. And you can see that the product is printed here. This is a nested list. With JavaScript and jQuery, lot of nested conditions we have to write. You already know that. Now it is easy to present the content. You can see it is going to present a list item. The category is printed. In that again we have products. For products it will perform another iteration. This is nested. So this is an example for nested iteration. Same. So iterations dot component dot ts. This time in that we are adding data like this. This is just data. Rest of logic not required. You can do that. This is data. Now iterations dot component dot html. And in HTML we need this. This is the data in HTML. We need to present that. So that is the data in HTML. How we can perform nested iterations and not only ordered list or list item. So you can let's see. Suppose I am creating a div and I am creating a select, and in the select we are performing iteration. And observe carefully, you remembered we already have OPT group, option group. So we need to perform iteration for every option group. Every category must be inside this option group. That means ng for let item of shopping menu. And here we will print item dot. Actually, option group contains a label. That means we need to print the label. Option group contains a label. Label is equal to, we have to get item dot, the label should be item dot category. That means the category name will be used as label. Now inside option group, we need to create an option. This option should repeat for every product. Then again we have to use ng for let. So some product of item dot products. And here we are printing the product name. In the option we are printing the product name. And this time it is going to design a menu like this with have option groups generated. The category name will be used as option group, and the items in the category are defined in this way. They are configured in this way. So this is the basic approach of defining and configuring the items. So usually we have to configure the items and define the items in this way. Now let's copy this. This is same. We can create with an option group also. In the same example, below the navigation, I will add this div also. This is for generating options dynamically. We can use nested iterations. Now this can be used for complex tables also easily. So this is what we need to learn. How to create table. Let's create some data. Data contains an array. Data contains an array of products. So here we have name, some JBL speaker. We have price, some price, and we have some stock. So in stock, some like this. Now similarly, other products name, some mobile, and also some earpods, and price. Some data is there, and in stock false something. We are defining some data. I want to present this as in stock is true. Table. We need to present this as a table. Now again, when we learned tables creation dynamically in JavaScript and jQuery, lot of logic again. But now see how to write a table. Simple. I am creating a div here and table. Let's keep, so width is equal to some 400. Border is equal to 1. And table have a caption. So products list, and I will keep align to center. In that we have T head, TR and TH. We have the name and the price and the stock. Now heading is ready. Table heading is ready. Now we need to create the table rows. Then here T body, in that we need a row. This row should repeat for every product in the data. Then it's a simple. What we do is here we simply write ng for let item of data. Now every item is a product, so that product contains product name, the product price and stock. So we will create cell. First cell contains item dot name. Second cell contains item dot price. Third cell contains item dot in stock. And you can see the table is created for that. That's very simple. We don't need to use much conditions and much looping. Now you see here we are writing a logic. So item in stock is equal to true. Then question mark, so available, and colon, out of stock. And you can see the word it will display according to. So presenting table is very easy now. Earlier, you know the logically complexity. You have to write lot of table cells, iterations, add them. The same work, if we have to do in JavaScript and jQuery, a lot of logic is required. But here, the presentation is very simple. You just have the data, and that data is collected through an iteration and presented. Even you can present the photos. Anything similar. For example, if you have photos, generally the photos are all the static files. You have to keep in assets folder. In Angular project, you have assets folder. Open that assets folder, reveal in Explorer. This is assets folder. Copy your images into that assets folder. I am copying the images into assets folder. Suppose, so we have some pictures. In our project already we have some images. We will use them. So some images are there. Copy those images into assets folder. Copy the images into assets folder, and you can use them. Actually, in JavaScript and jQuery, image name is not case sensitive, but here it is case sensitive. So when you use the images, so in the data, I will create photo. Photo comes from assets / some speaker .jpg. And here photo comes from assets / earpods.jpg. And here photo comes from assets and some shoe.jpg. Now this to be displayed in the UI. In the UI to display them, I will add one cell. In that I want image. For image, source is defined as a property src, and source is coming from item.photofield. Some width is equal to 100 and height is equal to 100. Now when I run this, you can see those images are available here. I can just keep a header, so saying preview, and you can keep that preview. You can display any content in a simple display format. You can use the knowledge of your Bootstrap also here. But you need to download and install Bootstrap for your project. For Angular project, you can use Bootstrap. How to get Bootstrap? For example, already Bootstrap is there in our node modules. In Amazon node modules, so we have node modules, and already Bootstrap is there in node modules. So suppose already we have projects. Now what we can do is, if you want to use Bootstrap in the Angular project, you have to go to styles in Angular project. In the Angular project, you have to go to styles.css. In styles.css, you have to import Bootstrap here. We have to write @import and /. It will come out of the current folder. // it come out of the shopping folder. dot dot slash. It will come out of Angular projects. Here we have node modules. In that we have Bootstrap, dist, CSS, Bootstrap dot CSS. We can include the Bootstrap and import the Bootstrap like this. That means we are accessing Bootstrap from this location. That means you have to import the tins.css. Now it is available to your project. Now Bootstrap is working. If Bootstrap is working, you know what to do. Simply, I can go to the HTML. I can use Bootstrap classes here. That means for table, I will not do all this. Simply, I will use class. So table and a table hover. And you can see and div class container fluid. And you keep a heading. So products list. And you see all these effects are there. Now you can create and you can use the Bootstrap here. Now what is the interesting part is you can present in different ways, not only table. So this is enabling Bootstrap. Already in the notes I uploaded how to enable Bootstrap. Once go through that. Now here the point is you can present in any way, not only table. Suppose I want to display like a card deck. Let's see how to do that. That means I will give another example. This is generating table. And generate table iterations dot component dot ts. In that ts file, we just have this data. We have the data. This is the data. And we need to present this iterations dot component dot html. File we need to present our boot. In that, I will design a class card. This card should repeat for every product. Then we can write directly ng for let item of data. And you know how to design the card. Here we will put card header. In the card header, I want to display the item name, then item dot name. I will put card class card body, and in the card body I want to keep an image. So image source is equal to item dot photo. So we need to get that item dot photo, and width and height 200 I define. Okay, and div class card footer, and you keep an heading here, and there we want to display item dot price. Like this I given stock and others. This time in the card deck we are generating a card and repeating the card, and you can see that the card repeating, it will display the output in this way. It is easy to present any content. You remembered I already showed you generating the card also dynamically. How to generate the card dynamically, I showed you the process of generating the card dynamically. So it's a very complicated thing in JavaScript and jQuery, but here it is very simple now. If we know how to present these, now we will do one thing. What we have to do is, we need to get this data from database through Node.js. a server-side technology and present the data. And we need to handle interaction with the data. So to this example, we will add one extra work. The data will come from database, not directly hard-coded here. So we will create a database table. There we will keep all the data in MongoDB, and through AJAX call, we can access that and present in Angular. How we can read the data and how we can submit the data. This is the basic approach we need to follow. Now, if we can do this, that means we are creating a complete mean stack now. We are creating a mean stack. That means MongoDB, Express, Angular, and Node.js. Now we need to get the data and present the data in this way, so that we will see how to handle with the database in our next session. Right, tomorrow, very important, we are going to learn how to integrate with the API. Integrate with API. Get the data from the API and work with the API. That we will see in tomorrow's session, right? Tomorrow we are going to learn mean stack example. That means complete end-to-end integration in the Angular. Then we can get a complete end-to-end project, right? Tomorrow we will see with that.